having this be my first real venture into Latin America, I don't know that I could consider myself an authority on answering that question at all. For me, this is a journey of trying to start to answer that question, I think. I think the assets of the Spanish-speaking world the opportunity is very, very big. The number of countries that speak the language where business can expand to, I think is really great. And so that asset, in speaking to a number of organizations today who are in call center and outsourcing businesses, they find a real global interest in the multilingual community that's available here in Bogota, for example. So it's going to be interesting to learn more over the course of my visit. This is a great question, how to attract and retain great people in your company. You know, if you think about what is the number one driver of value creation in any business, it's the people. The people are delivering, the people are creating and innovating and contributing. And yet, for most of my professional career, the one area in every company that seems least invested in is the area of how you hire and develop and make sure you've got the best people to deliver the most incredible possible outcome that you can realize. This is why I love what I do. This is why my life is about being a talent advisor right now. And so if you're embarking on this mission and it's important to you to build a company that's going to create great value, it has to start with finding and getting the best people in the world in your organization. Not just someone to do the job, but someone world-class, if that's what you want. World-class results usually result from world-class people and teams and cultures. And so the recruiting process really starts with a couple of things. The first one is to understand, why does someone want to work for you? Why would someone, and what are you about? And who is the right kind of person that's going to thrive in your company? What are the skills, what are the temperaments, what are the backgrounds, experiences that really are going to provide someone to flourish? Because many times I see people make a mistake is, on paper, someone looks like they have the right experience to do the job. But what's missed is that they don't know how to operate in the stage that the company is in. They've been working in a company that's been going through a shrinking phase. They've never been in a rapid growth phase. And if you're hiring for rapid growth, even though someone's got the skill, they don't know how to apply that skill necessarily in the phase of evolution. So just like in marriage, one of the first things you need to do when you're recruiting your partner is to know who you are first. And I think that's probably the best first step any company can make. Recognize who you are, recognize who the best fit is for you, and then from there, start building a strategy of where you're going to find those people. And today, what I think is really interesting is where people spend time is far different than where people spent time 10 years ago, if you follow me, right? Like, people are on the web more. They're connecting to communities of similar interests more, whereas before maybe they were going to a cafe and talking. It's different. And you need to be able to be very strategic in how you find where are the eyeballs of the people that you want to talk to. So you bring up something I think that's really worth talking about and thinking about in this era of hyper-growth and technology companies. You said people, IT tech talent comes and goes. One of the interesting observations I've had in the last few years working in Silicon Valley is an increasing trend for technical talent to be drawn to a project more so than a company. And one of my theories is that the most vulnerable time for technical talent in your company is in between projects. So if you want to engage the mind and the interests of technical talent, you need to deliver what the next project is before the current project ends, and have that be something that's aligned with what that talent wants to do. Okay? This is no longer an era in this phase of telling the employee what they should do. This is an era of understanding what the employee wants to do and mapping that with what the company wants to achieve. Because if you have a lack of harmony there, the talent will go find what they want to do because they can and because it's easier to find than ever before. This is something that I think is really worth reflecting on if you're getting into the business of recruiting technical talent. In Silicon Valley, for example, I have many people approach me and say, Steve, we're thinking of opening an office in Silicon Valley because if you're a technical company, you need to have a presence there. And I say, why are you doing that? Do you know you're going to be next door to Apple and Google and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook? Why would someone want to work for you there? Good luck. And plus, it's incredibly expensive. That talent, to live there is expensive, thus you have to pay people enough so they can afford to live there. It's rough. It's really rough. So think long and hard about that, right? And this is the other thing that's, I think, fun and challenging and interesting about recruiting this technical talent. It is a little bit fickle. It is a little bit challenging to manage. It's a profession where people are trained to solve problems and look at things from very unique perspectives. And how you engage that community is really important. And having people in your company that know there's a few fundamentals, I think, that every great engineer wants. And if you can deliver on some of those, you'll have an advantage, which is great technical talent wants to be around great technical talent. Great technical talent wants to work with great technical tools and work on the latest. They want to have the most current, tools and technologies to use. Great technical talent wants to feel that they're making a difference and working on something that matters. I don't care what your business is, you matter somewhere. So what is that story, and how are you going to find it, right? My experience at LinkedIn taught me that when we had an executive team, most of whom had never done anything like we were about to do, and yet we achieved a really phenomenal result, I think there's a lesson there. And that is, you don't always have to have done something before to do something great. But what you need to have is the desire. And I think we have put too much emphasis, and we do place too much emphasis on experience over talent. Like just because someone's done it before somewhere else doesn't mean they will do it great in your organization. But if you have someone who's got the hunger and the desire and some of the right fundamentals, it's possible that you can build something great out of that. In the LinkedIn story for me, there's many great stories, but one of the stories is a team of leaders that wanted to do something amazing and build something really special, and having the opportunity to do that. Wow, I think if I had the answer to that, I would be a retired and incredibly wealthy person right now. I don't know that I can answer what skills are required for innovation. What I would offer is that I've given this concept of innovation a ton of thought over my career, over my life. And I think what's probably more valuable to think about is what environment produces the most innovation possibilities. And I think today, what companies, organizations, teams, schools, wherever you are, what you need to think about is what settings produce the best outcomes. For example, if you take a human being is more likely to produce something great in a safe environment. If there's a threat, if they feel threatened in an environment, they're going to be thinking more about their safety, their job security, or pleasing their boss than building something that's going to change the game. So that's the first thing that I would think about is, what is the right setting that's going to inspire that? The second thing is, how do I unlock everything in the minds of my employees? How do I create a place where ideas are exchanged, where people grow from the benefit of other ideas and they share, and 1 + 1 = 3? You know what I mean? There was a book that I read years ago. In fact, it was given to me by the founder of LinkedIn, which I think is really powerful. This book is called Regional Advantage. And the whole study of this author, that this author undertook in this book is, why in America did the West Coast become Silicon Valley, become incredibly influential, become one of the nests of the most innovation, the most successful companies, when the East Coast, at the same time, in the late 60s and 70s, had the same advantages? Great universities, Harvard, MIT, big companies, Wang, Digital. And the West Coast had Stanford and Berkeley, San Jose State. They had some similar highly respected universities, and they had a semiconductor company called Fairchild Semiconductor. What was different? Why did the innovation explode here, and why did it not explode here? And what the author concluded was, In Silicon Valley, the ideas were shared between companies, between people. It wasn't so proprietary. People weren't holding on. The idea trumped the proprietary ownership. It wasn't as territorial. On the East Coast, it was about my idea. I'm not going to share with you. And so I think cultures of sharing where the idea is prime are going to unlock more innovation. And I think it's a super book if anyone's got interest in reading it to explore that. And then I think you come down to another element which is above this in an organization is what kind of leadership and what kind of infrastructure enables communication. And I find one that's more fluid. I think the more rigid and hierarchical drives information flow in very structured ways. And ideas and innovation, I don't think is a product of structure. I think sometimes it's the product of organic creation. And so that's very uncomfortable for big organizations to, what do you mean no org structure? How do we do that? And so I don't have a formula for it, but I think those are some things, that's how I think about it anyway. Yeah, this is one of the biggest challenges I think we have right now. How do we reconcile all the information we have? How do we drive authentic interactions? I've had situations in my personal life, in my work life, where if you go into a restaurant today, for example, or if you walk into a conference room in a company, people are engaging their cell phone or their technology more than they are with an authentic relationship. And I think we have a long way to learn. And granted, these technologies are very new. Facebook's less than 10 years old. Twitter's less than 10 years old. LinkedIn just turned 11 this past May. And it's all new and it's evolving. And I think we're trying to learn. And I think there's this tension between the seduction of technology and the social networks and this amazing app universe that we see. There's this tension between that and the other side, which is desiring an authentic connection with people, human interaction, which no technology is ever going to replace. If you look back at the 3 waves of technology that have really shaped the world with the internet, the first one was the ability for organization or information to be collected and found on the internet. The next wave was organizing that. Now I could go find a restaurant in the first wave. In the second wave, I can find a good restaurant, okay? Like if I want to find some Chinese food, in the first wave, I could find the Chinese food places. The next one is social in terms of people are rating and ranking what they did. The third one is I could find out which Chinese restaurant I'm going to like because people I know and I trust have told me it's good. And that's personalized. And this is where I think I see people falling prey a little bit to the seduction of technology in the world, which is that they forget the insights that you get from a lot of these new tools gives you information with which you can start a closer relationship or a deeper relationship with someone. In the world of recruiting, for example, there's so much information about me, about you out there that someone could find. But most of the time recruiters will call you because they know you work there and say, are you interested in this job? But they never look to see what you've actually done and have you done this kind of work and is it really right for you? And that we have all that, but we're not used to applying it. It's about finding a personal connection and building that relationship, and we haven't built a coordination yet at scale. It's happening and it's pretty exciting, but we're going to have to reconcile. We want to be with each other, not with a phone on our ear, and it's like an addiction in a way that we're going to have to figure out. The best word that I can say to help smaller organizations leverage social media is voice and brand. You have more opportunities to tell your story in your special way and to build a brand that's going to draw attention to what's special and unique about you than you ever had before for almost no money. You don't need to pay an advertising firm to do that. Look at your assets, collect them and assemble them, and put them in the community. And I think the best way to do that is to engage your employees. To ask them, do you like working here? Do you like being here? You do? Great. Can you go tell the world about it if that's what you want? And tell them why it's great, and tell them what it's like to work here. Part of me believes that candidates would rather have information where you have an employee who tapes a GoPro camera to their head and runs around the office and shows, like, this is what it's like here. This is the culture. These are the people I talk to. This is the espresso machine. This is the food we eat. This is the cubicle I work in. Then a boring job description that says nothing. You need this level of experience. You need to have worked in these companies. Tells you nothing. Social media gives you texture. It gives you the chance to show character and life and culture. Those are tools that a small, medium, anyone can use. I've got my own business. I'm by myself. I built a website to tell my story, and I have fun with that. And I learn, and I get feedback from the community too. Hey, that page you built, that's horrible. You need to fix that, or you made a mistake here. So that's one way, brand voice. Second way is put your voice and your brand in the communities of places where your customers are hanging out. Okay? Find what social places they're spending time, and that's where you want to be having conversations. And this is what I think social networks provide, is an opportunity to engage with customers, not just employees, customers, in ways that we've never done before. And again, this is evolving all the time, but the possibilities are really exciting. Wow, that's a great question. I think where we're heading towards in the world of talent management is much greater awareness of insights about what the right talent is for me. What LinkedIn has helped do to an amazing degree that's never been realized before is help everyone find talent. What it hasn't done yet, and what I believe the next wave is organizations being able to find the right talent. Okay? I can find more financial advisors than I could ever before on LinkedIn. But what's the right one for me? And I think this intelligence around finding the right fit for you as an individual in a company, and the right fit for the company to find the right person who's going to really do great, understanding the talent, I believe is the next wave for us. And I call it, predictive analytics is the expression that I use, using data more. A lot of times people hire on gut instinct. Oh, I like this person. It feels right. I think they're going to do good. And I think now we've got, I can prove that they've done exactly what we need done in these other environments that are similar to our environment. They've worked with people that I know, because I can see it in the data, that are like the people that worked here. The chances of them doing really well here are high. So we're mitigating the risks in recruiting and being more, I think, intelligent around making those choices. It's almost like you have a running start in a relationship now, because before you even meet somebody, you have already recognized things that you share in common. You went to the same school, or you spent a year in Spain together around the same time, or you both have children, or you both coach sports. That is a quicker path to building a bond. I think what they try to do is push traditional marketing and PR into the social channels. So there's what I call spinning. They're trying to tell their story versus having the people tell the story. I think people can sniff authenticity when it's real and when it's not real, and when they're being sold something and when they're not being sold something. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is not recognizing this is a platform for real expression. Yes, you could put ads in there, and yes, you could say things. For example, there's a site in the States that started as restaurant reviews, and now it reviews everything, called Yelp. I don't know if it's something that's reached here, but I'm sure there's something comparable, where patrons of a business can write a review about that business. What started to happen was patrons were paying people to write reviews about them. They're gaming the system, okay? That's a mistake. And some of the systems that were being created for people to rate companies were coercing, shall we say, the business is that if you don't buy products from us, we're going to write a bad review about your business. So this is, it's a Wild West. It's the new frontier. It's crazy. It's crazy land. We're still figuring it out. But I think these are some things that I see, some mistakes that people make that lead to the problems down the road. The other mistake, and this is probably the biggest one, is that people don't recognize that the opportunities for you to create what I call a digital tattoo. You say something, or you tweet something, or you post something, it will live forever. And if you misquote yourself or express something incorrectly, it now lives with you forever. So be literate in these new technologies as much as you can. And if you're not comfortable, hire some people that are to help you get comfortable or to help build, your skills in using the new technologies. What this new frontier of digital footprints is creating is an opportunity for people to talk about you as a leader or talk about your company and have that be archived and cataloged and indexed and live forever. And I think that the people who are not aware of that may fall prey to the fact that their brand is being built by somebody else, their company brand, their own. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to recognize that having a brand that's managed the way you want it managed, that represents you in the best possible light, and LinkedIn profile is a phenomenal way to start that process, is a worthy investment, especially if you're in a business of technology, wherever that sits. If you're not, you're still likely to have people want to know about you and what your brand is. I'll give you a great story that I think helped me a little bit, but also helped the person that I was interacting with understand the power of brand. I was invited to a massive company in the United States a few years ago when I was at LinkedIn. The people I was meeting with ran the whole diversity program for that company. The day I met with them, they came into the meeting very frustrated, and they said, "Can you help us with diversity? You're LinkedIn. I mean, and they were very skeptical. What can you do to help me with diversity?" And I'd done a little preparation for the meeting, and I said, as I understand it, you are the head of diversity for this company, which has over 100,000 people in 50 companies around the world. Yes, I am. Okay, so if I'm a candidate interested in diversity in your company, when I look at your LinkedIn profile, what do I find? And so I pulled up her profile, and I found her title, head of diversity. I said, so what does that tell me? It tells me nothing. It tells me that's what your job is. Let me pull up 2 other profiles of leaders of diversity in your competitors, and let me show you what they're saying. Look at this one. This man has written articles about diversity. This man's showing videos of his CEO talking about diversity. This man's showing all the metrics of the diversity of his population of employees and the scholarships they're giving and the recognition that they've got in the community for their investment in community relations around diversity. Do you see the difference here? Do you see what your brand tells me? Your brand tells me nothing. And you may have an incredible story. Do you have one? She said, yeah, we definitely do. I said, so are you interested in learning more? And she said, oh yeah. And so it came from, them moving from looking at their watches, when's the meeting going to end, to tell me more, I want that. And I said, this matters. She may have thought, well, why do I want a profile? Everyone's going to bug me about LinkedIn stuff, and I get all these requests. Actually, candidates are looking at you as a representative of something that means something to them. What story are you telling them? Nothing? Or something really rich and robust? And that, I think, is probably the best way to think about lost opportunities that people have when they don't think about brand, right? There's so many assets that you have, and I do not proclaim to be a master here, but I happen to have sat in the front row for a few years at a company that's done some pretty incredible stuff, and I've seen a lot and made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot of stuff. Well, I think probably the first place is to just look at people that you think are doing it well and see what they're doing and borrow and steal their methods and customize them to you, if you will. Probably the first place is just for you to acknowledge and recognize this is a universe that matters to me or to my company, right? And we want to play here. Don't do it to be fashionable, because people will smell that it's not real. Do it because you really, you know what? I think this is an ocean that we need to be swimming in, and we need to understand, and we need to play in. And I think that's really, really important to start. And then start trying it, you know? Start seeing if you can find your voice. It took me several years to find my Twitter voice. And I don't know, there's probably a lot of people that think I don't even have one still. But I do tweet from time to time. And the problem I had when I got started was every time I wanted to tweet, I would start writing something and I would think, that's so stupid. People are going to think I'm so dumb. I want something witty and smart and impressive. And so I would spend an hour on one sentence and then I'd say, screw it. And I would stop. And we talked about this as a leadership team at LinkedIn. We said, we're on LinkedIn, but we should understand Twitter. Everyone go figure out Twitter. And the next week we came together and said, okay, who tweeted? And most people didn't. And I don't like it. It's too short. It's 140 characters. What can you say? And then we said, you know what? That's the future is showing this is something that people are interested in doing. So we at least need to try and understand it. So we tried it. We learned, and so we stumbled and bumbled and made mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes I made. Oh my gosh! I thought I was sending a tweet to a friend like a text, but it was to my whole network. And it was something I did not want the whole network to see. And that, fortunately, I caught in time to delete it. My boss saw it and said, did you realize what you just did? I went, no, because you didn't send that to the person, you sent that to the whole community. So, ouch, right? But it was a lesson learned. Fortunately, there wasn't a lot of damage. There could have been. I think the best way to look at it is that anything you say, even out of social media, but in a group setting, on email, even if it's private, you need to recognize how you need to expect and think about that you should be expressing yourself in a way that anyone reading this would understand what you're doing. That it could be in the hands of everybody. So be careful, right?
You're right.
That's the best way to do it. But at the same time, this is where the challenge comes in, because if you want to be edgy and you want to be unique, it's hard to do that. Because if you want to not upset a certain contingency, or you don't want to piss someone off, you come across as just being boring, right? And plain and vanilla. So how do you find your character in a witty, unique, insightful way that's consistent with who you are without causing problems? You know? And maybe you don't care. Maybe you just say, screw it, I don't care what people think. And I'm too conservative to do that, but maybe there's some people who are. I think it's the most important contribution I think LinkedIn's made. There's probably a lot, but the one that I'm thinking of right now is the liberation of opportunity. Companies cannot hide their people from the world anymore. And companies cannot hide poor managers from the world anymore. Because people will talk if they are not happy. Maybe they'll do it anonymously if they're fearing retribution. But it's created a much more efficient market. And let me explain what I mean by that. And by the way, when I interviewed with LinkedIn, I was so excited by this that I couldn't sleep for a week, because I saw what was going to happen. In that managers are going to have to be better managers, because employees and people are going to see more opportunities of choice that they have now by going to LinkedIn than they've ever had before. So if you have to now not keep people at your company because they're not aware of other opportunities, you have to keep your people because they want to be there and you want to make it the place they want to be, right? This was the first revolution that LinkedIn faced when they released their product. Companies said to their employees, you cannot use LinkedIn. And we said, well, why aren't you letting your employees use LinkedIn? Because they're going to use it to find another job. And we said, well, right. But don't you want the employees that don't want to be here, don't you want them to leave anyway? Well, yeah. And don't you want people to be here because they want to be here, not because they're a prisoner or unaware of other opportunities? Well, yeah. And keep in mind, in Silicon Valley, this is the universe that I've been swimming in. I recognize in other parts of the world, the massive amounts of opportunity don't necessarily exist. I do think in the technology space, there are enormous opportunities and still are in front of us. But that's what LinkedIn has really changed the game more than anything, is created this transparent exposure of great talent. And now what should happen is the best talent should find the best opportunities for themselves easier than they ever have been able to before. And everyone should benefit for that. Companies should be better, employees should be happier. It's very altruistic, I know, and you may wonder, what was I smoking before this interview? But I do think that's possible. I think it's very possible. And I think that's what's exciting about what's in front of us. And we're just starting. We're just at the beginning steps of this.
Well, Steve, thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah.